It's one of the most controversial discussions amongst parents. Should you or shouldn't you be able to smack your child? That debate was reignited again just last week. We spoke about it here, with experts calling on Australia to join 65 other countries to make smacking illegal.
Parenting expert Dr. Justin Coulson has alternative solutions and is live from the Sunshine Coast. Justin, good morning. You've always been very vocal with us about this in speaking out against smacking. What does the research say? Why are you so convinced?
So no study has ever found any positive long-term effects of smacking. Most have found negative effects. I think just from a pure logic perspective, Sylvia, let's say that a toddler is half of an adult's height on average and maybe 1/5 of their weight. So let's take a human who is double our height, 3.5 metres, for example, and 5 times our weight. Let's say average adult is 80 kilos. So we've got a 400 kilo, 350 centimetre person who walks into the room, doesn't like what you've done and says, that's it, I'm going to give you a smack, bend over. I don't think anybody at all is going to do anything other than wet their pants and cry as an adult at the tremendous fear that would come over us with somebody that big doing that to us. And yet we argue in this country still that we should have a right to hit our kids. There's no logic behind it. There's no empirical evidence behind it. There's not a shred of science to support the idea, and yet we keep on hearing people defending their right to hit their kids.
Quite simply, it's not a fair fight. What are the long-term impacts of smacking a child then?
Really clear research, and I could give you a very, very long list, but let me just hand a couple of ideas over to you. Number one, ruptured relationships. The number of adults that I speak to who describe how they were hit as kids, even if it was just rarely, and talk about how that has affected their trust in their parents. Number two, we've got really good science just in the last 12 months. It shows that when children are smacked through their childhood, by the time they're in their early to mid-20s, they're at about double the risk of depression and anxiety compared to those kids who are not smacked. We see emotion regulation challenges, not just in childhood, but even through to adulthood. We know that the idea of might is right is perpetuated. It continues the cycle, and we see continued use of aggression and violence as a means to get this stuff done, to get compliance from people around us.
I suppose for a lot of parents, it's a heat of the moment thing. No one, they're not necessarily setting out to smack their child, but they get to a point where they're at their wits' end. They don't feel like they've got any tools left in the toolbox. So in your book, The Parenting Revolution, you discuss alternative methods to smacking. What are they? What can parents do in that heat of the moment?
So, Sylvia, I mean, the number one thing is you've got to be able to regulate your own emotions, right? You can't parent well when your emotions are high. Once you get through that, though, once you've taken that deep breath and thought, what am I really trying to do here? Connection is at the core of effective discipline. I know some people say, well, this is just coddling the kids, but it's not. When your emotions are high, you can't learn. You've got no intelligence. So get the connection right, and then you can start to build structures, boundaries, limits. You need to be a good model and practice what I call the 3 E's of effective discipline. That's what the book's all about. And those 3 E's are that we need to explore what's going on with our kids. Like, they don't behave in challenging ways for the fun of it. They don't wake up in the morning and say, how can I destroy my parents' lives today?
Sometimes I wonder if that's what my sons are doing.
That's true, Justin.
I'm not sure. I'd like to see the evidence of that.
But then you just explain, hey, here's what I need, and then you problem solve. I mean, the very best discipline is actually about problem solving. Yeah. Empower your kids in a collaborative way as the wise adult and say, how do we fix this? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? That's what I talk about in the book, The Parenting Revolution, and that's the really good long-term solution to overcoming this need to smack our kids.
But you know what, though, Justin, and what Sylvia was saying before, that some parents do it and they do it out of the heat of the moment and they don't mean to do it, and then there's this enormous amount of shame that comes from the parent. And we're not trying to shame anyone who's done that at home. But if they have smacked their child in the heat of this moment, what do you do then to sort of make it up? I mean, I'm laughing because I feel like it's something that we've all thought about or been through.
And including the guy that you're talking to now.
Yeah, we're humans.
Yeah, that's right. So a 10-second story and then 3 solutions. A defence mum whose husband had been away on duty defending the nation was seen by somebody that I know quite close to me, standing in the garage and whacking her 3-year-old who had spilt paint all over the garage floor. The house kind of paint all over the garage floor, and saying, I'm going to keep on hitting you until I feel better about this. Like, sometimes as parents, we just are falling apart. So what do we do when this is happening? I think, number one, we've got to stop it. Like, we do need to stop hitting our kids. Number two, it's okay to go to the kids and say, I'm sorry, like, apologise. And if I can put in a shameless plug for the book, read my book, The Parenting Revolution, because everything you need to know is there to help you to become the parent that you want to be.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God. Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?
Always happens.